Sarah lived in a small, cozy house filled with memories. But lately, the memories felt heavy, like a thick blanket smothering her joy. Her husband, Tom, had passed away just a few months ago, and the silence in the house was deafening. Before, laughter and stories echoed through the rooms. Now, only the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway broke the quiet. Sarah used to love gardening, spending hours tending to her roses and daisies. Tom would always bring her a cup of tea while she worked, his smile as bright as the summer sun. Now, the garden was overgrown, the flowers drooping like her spirits. She tried to bake, remembering Tom's favorite apple pie, but the smell only brought tears to her eyes. Everything reminded her of him, and the pain felt unbearable. She was a kind woman, always ready with a helping hand. But now, she felt lost and alone. Each day felt the same for Sarah. She would wake up to an empty bed, the side where Tom used to sleep now cold and untouched. She'd make a cup of tea, but it tasted bland and bitter. Breakfast was usually just a piece of toast she barely touched. The newspaper lay unread on the table. She'd wander through the house, touching Tom's favorite armchair, his books, the photographs on the mantelpiece. Each object was a reminder of their life together, a life that now felt like a distant dream. Sometimes, she would sit by the window watching the world go by, feeling like she was on the outside looking in. The laughter of children playing in the park across the street only amplified her loneliness. Evenings were the hardest. Dinner was a solitary affair, the silence broken only by the clinking of her fork against the plate. After dinner, she would watch television, but the shows seemed dull and meaningless. One particularly bleak afternoon, as rain lashed against the windows, Sarah sat in her armchair, staring blankly at the flickering fireplace. A deep sense of despair washed over her. What was the point of going on? Tom was gone, her friends had their own families and lives, and she felt like a burden to everyone. She thought about joining Tom. The idea, once a fleeting shadow, now felt like a comforting embrace. Maybe, just maybe, she would find peace on the other side. She closed her eyes, picturing Tom's smiling face, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. The weight of her grief felt crushing, and the thought of continuing to live with such pain was unbearable. She felt like a ship lost at sea, without a rudder or a sail, drifting aimlessly towards a dark and unknown horizon. The fight had gone out of her. Mrs. Davis, a warm and observant woman, lived next door to Sarah. She had noticed the curtains always drawn at Sarah's house, the unkempt garden, and the increasingly withdrawn demeanor of her neighbor. Mrs. Davis knew about Tom's passing and had offered her condolences, but she sensed that Sarah's grief was deepening into something more concerning. Mrs. Davis often saw Sarah sitting by the window, her face etched with sadness. She worried about her, sensing a profound loneliness that needed to be addressed. She tried to wave or smile when she saw Sarah, but Sarah rarely seemed to notice. Mrs. Davis knew she had to do something more. She couldn't just stand by and watch Sarah fade away. She decided to bake a batch of her famous chocolate chip cookies, hoping that a small gesture of kindness might break through Sarah's wall of sorrow. With a plate of warm cookies in hand, Mrs. Davis walked next door and gently knocked on Sarah's door. It took a few moments, but eventually, Sarah opened it, her eyes red-rimmed and her hair disheveled. She looked surprised to see Mrs. Davis. "Sarah, dear," Mrs. Davis said softly, "I baked some cookies and thought you might enjoy them." She offered the plate with a warm smile. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then took the plate. "Thank you, Mrs. Davis. That's very kind of you." "It's no trouble at all," Mrs. Davis replied. "Would you mind if I came in for a little while? I'd love to chat if you're up to it." Sarah, though reluctant, couldn't find a reason to refuse. "All right," she said quietly, stepping aside to let Mrs. Davis in. The aroma of the cookies filled the air, a small beacon of warmth in the otherwise somber house. As they sat in the living room, Mrs. Davis gently steered the conversation away from Sarah's grief. She spoke about the weather, the local news, and then, more personally, about her own life. "You know, Sarah," she began, "I'm a foster parent. I have two wonderful children staying with me right now. Sarah looked at her, a flicker of interest in her eyes. Oh, really? Yes, Mrs. Davis replied. Their names are Leo and Mia. They're siblings, and they're both such sweethearts, but they've had a tough time. Their parents aren't able to care for them right now, so they're staying with me until things get better. She paused, choosing her words carefully. It's challenging but rewarding. They bring so much joy into my life. Mrs. Davis hoped this information would offer Sarah a new perspective and perhaps a glimmer of hope. They're good kids, Mrs. Davis continued, but they're still adjusting. It's hard for them, you know? New house, new school, new faces. She sighed gently. Leo, he's 8, is very quiet and withdrawn. He misses his mom and dad terribly. And Mia, who's 6, she's a little more outgoing, but she has nightmares sometimes. Mrs. Davis paused, taking a sip of her tea. They both need a lot of extra love and attention right now. It breaks my heart to see them so sad. I try my best, but I'm just one person, and they need more than I can give sometimes. They need someone who has the time and patience to just listen and play with them. Her voice was filled with genuine concern for the children's well-being. She glanced at Sarah, hoping she was planting a seed of an idea. Mrs. Davis took a deep breath and looked directly at Sarah. I know this might sound like a strange request, Sarah, but I was wondering, would you ever consider spending some time with Leo and Mia? Just an hour or two a week. Maybe reading them stories, playing games, or just keeping them company while I run errands. She quickly added, of course, there's no pressure at all. I just thought, you're so kind, and you have such a gentle way about you. And, she hesitated slightly, I know you've been feeling lonely lately. Perhaps spending time with them might bring a little light back into your life. She watched Sarah carefully, gauging her reaction, hoping she hadn't overstepped. She truly believed that this could be a mutually beneficial arrangement, a way for both Sarah and the children to find some comfort and companionship. Sarah was taken aback. The thought of spending time with children, even for just an hour or two, felt overwhelming. She hadn't been around kids in years. She barely had the energy to take care of herself, let alone 2 young children who needed attention and care. Oh, Mrs. Davis, Sarah said hesitantly. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm the right person. I'm not very good with children, and I've been feeling so down lately. I wouldn't want to make things worse for them. She worried that her sadness would be contagious, that she would somehow burden the children with her grief. The idea of being responsible for their well-being, even in a small way, felt daunting. Could she really handle it? Was she strong enough? She truly doubted it. Oh, Sarah, dear, Mrs. Davis said gently, reaching out to take Sarah's hand. They're not looking for a replacement mother, you know. They already have one, even if she can't be with them right now. They just need a friend. Someone to read them a story, play a game, or just listen when they want to talk. She squeezed Sarah's hand reassuringly. Think of it as being an honorary grandma. You wouldn't have all the responsibilities of a parent, just the fun parts. And honestly, she added with a warm smile, I think you'd be wonderful. You have such a kind heart, Sarah. I can see it. Mrs. Davis hoped to ease Sarah's fears and convince her that she had something valuable to offer, even in her grief. She emphasized the light-hearted aspects of the role, hoping to make it less daunting. Sarah considered Mrs. Davis's words. The idea of being a friend, an honorary grandma, sounded less intimidating than being a caregiver. She thought about Leo and Mia, 2 children who had already experienced so much loss and change. Maybe, just maybe, she could offer them something positive, a little bit of stability and comfort in their lives. A tiny spark of hope flickered within her. Could helping these children also help her? Could focusing on their needs distract her from her own grief, even for a little while? It was a risk, but perhaps it was a risk worth taking. All right, Mrs. Davis, Sarah said softly, a faint smile gracing her lips. I'll meet them. I'll see if we click. She wasn't promising anything, but she was willing to try. She was willing to give it a chance. A few days later, Mrs. Davis brought Leo and Mia over to Sarah's house. Sarah felt a flutter of nervousness as she opened the door. Leo stood shyly behind Mrs. Davis, clutching a small stuffed bear. Mia, a little braver, peeked out from behind Leo, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Hello, Sarah," Mrs. Davis said warmly. "This is Leo, and this is Mia. Kids, this is Sarah, our neighbor." Leo mumbled a quiet hello, barely audible. Mia, however, offered a small wave. The atmosphere was a little awkward at first. Sarah wasn't sure what to say or do. To break the ice, she remembered a funny children's book Tom used to read to their nieces and nephews. "I have a silly book inside," she said, trying to sound cheerful. "Would you like to hear it?" Leo and Mia looked at each other, then nodded hesitantly. As Sarah read the book, using silly voices and dramatic gestures, something magical happened. Leo, who had been so quiet, started to giggle. Mia, her eyes sparkling, leaned closer, pointing at the pictures. The book was about a clumsy penguin who kept tripping over his own feet, and the children found his antics hilarious. Sarah, watching their reactions, felt a warmth spread through her chest. It had been so long since she'd heard genuine laughter in her house. She found herself getting caught up in the story, enjoying the children's delight. For a little while, the sadness seemed to fade away, replaced by a lightness she hadn't felt in months. Even Mrs. Davis smiled knowingly from the doorway, witnessing the budding connection between Sarah and the children. The funny penguin had worked its charm. Sarah began to look forward to Leo and Mia's visits. She rediscovered her playful side, building pillow forts in the living room, playing hide and seek in the garden, which she had finally started to tidy up, and drawing colorful pictures with them at the kitchen table. She even learned a few new card games, although Mia always seemed to win. She found herself laughing more, truly laughing, than she had in months. The children's energy was infectious, and their innocent joy was a balm to her wounded heart. She started baking cookies again, not just for Mrs. Davis, but for Leo and Mia, experimenting with different flavors and decorations. The house, once filled with silence and sadness, was now filled with the sounds of children's laughter and happy chatter. Sarah was slowly, tentatively starting to heal. As Sarah gained their trust, Leo and Mia began to open up to her. Leo, still quiet but less withdrawn, would tell her about his favorite animals and his dream of becoming a veterinarian. Mia, more openly emotional, would sometimes talk about missing her parents and the scary dreams she had at night. Sarah listened patiently, offering comfort and reassurance. She shared stories about Tom, funny anecdotes and cherished memories, showing them that it was okay to remember and to grieve. She told them that even though things were hard sometimes, there was always hope for the future. She encouraged Mia to draw her dreams, turning the scary ones into colorful, less frightening pictures. She helped Leo build a cardboard animal hospital for his stuffed animals, fostering his passion. They were slowly becoming a little family. Sarah found herself eagerly anticipating Leo and Mia's visits. She would plan activities, bake their favorite treats, and even buy small gifts for them, a new book for Leo, a set of colorful hair clips for Mia. Her house, once a sanctuary of sorrow, was now filled with a vibrant energy that she had long forgotten. The ticking of the grandfather clock still marked the passage of time, but it no longer sounded so lonely. It was now accompanied by the sounds of children playing, of stories being read, of laughter echoing through the rooms. The empty spaces in her heart, once filled only with grief, were slowly being filled with love and purpose. She realized that she wasn't just helping them. They were helping her, too. They were giving her a reason to get up in the morning, a reason to smile, a reason to live. One afternoon, Leo was struggling with a school project about dinosaurs. He was frustrated and on the verge of tears. Sarah, remembering Tom's love for paleontology, pulled out his old books and helped Leo research different types of dinosaurs, their habitats, and their diets. They spent hours poring over the books, drawing pictures, and building a diorama out of cardboard and clay. As Leo proudly presented his project to the class the next day, he beamed with pride. He ran to Sarah afterward, giving her a big hug. "I got an A, Sarah. Thank you for helping me." That evening, while Sarah was reading, Mia carefully brushed Sarah's hair and began to braid it, adding colorful beads and ribbons. "You look so pretty, Sarah," Mia said, admiring her handiwork. Sarah looked in the mirror and saw not just her reflection, but a glimmer of happiness she hadn't seen in years. Looking at her reflection, with Mia's colorful braids adorning her hair, Sarah realized something profound. Leo and Mia needed her. They needed her to listen, to encourage, to care. They needed her to be their friend, their honorary grandma. But more importantly, she needed them. They had given her a purpose, a reason to get out of bed each day, a reason to smile again. They had filled the emptiness in her heart with love and laughter. She understood now that helping them wasn't just an act of kindness. It was an act of self-preservation. They were saving each other, healing each other, one story, one game, one braid at a time. She finally felt like she was part of something bigger than herself, something meaningful and important. She wasn't just a lonely widow anymore. She was Sarah, Leo, and Mia's friend. Feeling a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah decided to become even more involved in Leo and Mia's lives. She spoke to their teacher and started volunteering at their school a few afternoons each week. She helped the younger children with their reading, assisted with art projects, and even organized a bake sale to raise money for new library books. Leo and Mia were thrilled to have her at school. They would proudly introduce her to their friends and teachers, and Sarah loved seeing their faces light up when she arrived. Volunteering gave her a chance to connect with other children and families in the community, expanding her social circle and further diminishing her feelings of loneliness. She felt like she was making a real difference, not just in Leo and Mia's lives, but in the lives of all the children at the school. One afternoon, Mrs. Davis stopped by Sarah's house with a bouquet of flowers. "Sarah," she said, her voice filled with warmth, "I just wanted to thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you." Sarah looked at her, confused. "For what, Mrs. Davis?" "For everything," Mrs. Davis replied. "For being such a wonderful friend to Leo and Mia. I've seen such a positive change in them since you came into their lives. Leo is more outgoing, and Mia's nightmares have almost completely stopped. They talk about you all the time. You've brought so much joy and stability into their lives, and I'm eternally grateful." She paused, her eyes twinkling. "And I've noticed you're looking happier, too. It warms my heart to see you smiling again." Sarah smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's not just me, Mrs. Davis," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "They've done just as much for me, maybe even more. I was so lost, so sad, before they came into my life. I didn't think I could ever be happy again." She paused, wiping away a tear. "Leo and Mia have given me a new purpose, a reason to keep going. They've helped me to heal from my grief, to remember the joy in life. They needed me, yes, but I needed them too. They've shown me that even after the darkest storms, the sun can shine again." She looked at Mrs. Davis, her heart filled with gratitude. "Thank you for bringing them into my life. They're the best thing that's happened to me in a long, long time." Sarah started to find joy in the simple things again. She and Leo planted new rose bushes in the garden, laughing as they got mud on their faces. Mia helped her bake cookies, carefully decorating them with colorful sprinkles. They took walks in the park, played games in the sunshine, and read stories under the shade of the old oak tree. These everyday moments, once filled with sadness, were now filled with laughter and love. The garden, once overgrown and neglected, was now a vibrant oasis of color and life. The kitchen, once silent and empty, was now filled with the sweet aroma of freshly baked cookies and the happy chatter of children. Sarah realized that happiness wasn't about grand gestures or extraordinary events. It was about finding joy in the small, simple moments of life, shared with the people you loved. Christmas was approaching, and Sarah had dreaded the thought of spending it alone. But this year was different. This year she had Leo and Mia. They decorated the Christmas tree together, stringing popcorn garlands and hanging colorful ornaments. They baked gingerbread cookies, shaping them into penguins, in honor of their favorite book, and decorating them with frosting and candies. On Christmas morning, the house was filled with excitement as they opened presents. Leo received a veterinarian kit, and Mia got a dollhouse. Sarah received a handmade card from each of them, filled with heartfelt messages of love and appreciation. They spent the day playing games, singing carols, and enjoying a delicious Christmas dinner. It was a Christmas filled with laughter, love, and the warmth of family, a Christmas Sarah would never forget. As the day drew to a close and Leo and Mia were tucked into bed at Mrs. Davis's house, Sarah sat by the fireplace, a warm cup of tea in her hand. She looked at the Christmas tree, twinkling softly in the dim light, and a wave of bittersweet emotion washed over her. She still missed Tom terribly. There was an empty space in her heart that would never be completely filled. But she realized that she was no longer defined by her grief. Tom would always be a part of her, but he wasn't her whole story. She had a new chapter to write, a chapter filled with love, laughter, and purpose. She knew that Tom would have wanted her to be happy, to embrace life, and to share her love with others. And that's exactly what she was doing. She could remember Tom with love and joy, instead of just pain. Sarah knew that life would still have its challenges. There would still be moments of sadness, moments when she missed Tom so deeply that it felt like her heart would break. But she also knew that she wasn't alone. She had Leo and Mia, Mrs. Davis, and a growing circle of friends and neighbors who cared about her. She understood that even in the darkest times, hope and connection could be found in the most unexpected places. Sometimes, all it took was a plate of cookies, a funny book, or the innocent love of two little children to light up the darkness and show you the way back to joy. She had found her light, her purpose, and her family, not in the way she had expected, but in a way that was even more beautiful and meaningful. Years passed, and Sarah continued to be a loving and supportive presence in Leo and Mia's lives. She watched them grow into kind, compassionate, and successful young adults. She celebrated their graduations, their birthdays, and all their major milestones. She was their confidant, their cheerleader, and their friend. Although their time as foster children with Mrs. Davis eventually came to an end, their bond with Sarah remained unbreakable. They knew that she would always be there for them, no matter what. And Sarah, in turn, found immense happiness and fulfillment in her role as their special friend, their honorary grandma. She had started out as a lonely widow, about to give up on life, but thanks to two little ones who needed her, she had found a new family, a new purpose, and a love that would last a lifetime. She lived a full and happy life,